All right, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. I particularly want to begin by recognizing Leah Bamberger. She's our Director of Sustainability. She's led this effort on behalf of the city for quite a while. And first, I want to thank her. I want to thank you, Leah, for everything that you've done, but also congratulate you. And just as I thank and congratulate you, I'm sure I know what you're thinking, that it's not just you. And everything that you've done as part of a team. You've done an exceptional job bringing the community into this work. And so I also want to thank all of the community members that have been part of this for such a long time. Folks that have been part of the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee, as well as folks who have been part of the Environmental and Sustainability Task Force. Thank you for everything that you've done. I also want to thank a couple of our leaders on the City Council, Councilwoman Helen and also Councilman Pedro Espinal, that you're going to be hearing from in just a second. I want to point out, and it should go as noticed that you represent two very, very different communities. Yet, in many ways, you're both on the front lines of climate change. And seeing you come together to work together in this way shows that climate change is an issue that affects all of us, and it falls on all of our shoulders to be part of the solution. On top of that, I also want to thank Howie Snyder from the Steel Yard, Peter Case from Truth Box Architects, folks in industry, folks who manage and run buildings, and that can speak about the benefits of doing this kind of work. And last but not least, I specifically want to highlight and shout out Monica Huertas from the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee. Appreciate everything you do, Monica, and thank you for joining us today. And also Sue AnderBois. She is from the Environmental and Sustainability Task Force and guiding and leading a lot of our efforts here in the city. So with all that said, we know that COVID-19 has been a wake-up call to us on so many fronts, and we have to heed its warnings. First, we cannot ignore science and facts, although and especially when they force us to make tough choices. The window is closing to act on climate change, and we cannot wait a second longer. The facts won't change, but our options will, and they will become even more limited and unappealing if we fail to act. So acting is an imperative. Second, we cannot address once-in-a-generation problems like climate change in silos. We have to embrace the complexity and interconnectedness of it all. From racism, public health, climate, income inequality, and those are just a few of the factors. We have to address root causes to all of these issues in tandem. And finally, we have to seize the opportunity and practice new ways of being a community with each other and being in community with nature as well to set out and address these challenges. We need to share power, which means bringing affected and marginalized communities into the room and at the decision-making table, and center the most impacted in our decision-making processes. We have to practice collaborative governance and lean into these democratic values that in many ways are under attack as we speak. Let's start practicing the world that we want to create. The Office of Sustainability and Environment and the Racial and Environmental Justice Committee have been on an incredible journey doing exactly this work. The Climate Justice Plan that we presented not too long ago clearly understood all of these things long before COVID even became a threat. The updated Office of Sustainability Ordinance and the sustainability section of the comprehensive plan are both important steps to institutionalizing and implementing this work, because we know that this work is going to require commitment from the city over the long term, and this is a long-term commitment that we're making that's going to outlive this administration. Last winter, when a waste transfer station was proposed in South Providence, we were able to stand up against it and to strike it down. The facility would have brought more pollution and more traffic to an already overburdened, low-income community of color. We have to codify the vision set forth by the Climate Justice Plan and put it into our governing documents so that we can protect these communities and realize the transformation that we need. The Building Energy Reporting Ordinance, or BERO, has been in the works for years. Leah, along with Councilwoman Anthony, have gone above and beyond to shape this important policy that will help us address Providence's long-standing or Providence's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, which is our buildings. The policy would require large buildings to track and report their energy use, reporting it to the city, and the city would then disclose this information to the public. Over 30 cities in the United States and 2 states have already adopted very similar policies. We had years to see the results of such policies, and it works. What gets measured gets managed. The city has been tracking and reporting our own energy data since 2010, and we've seen the savings that result from it. If we're going to do our part to reduce emissions, we need to address our buildings, period. I'd like to thank everyone who is here today, everyone who has worked on these policies in the past, and everyone who's going to guide this work into the future, especially the RECJ. I want to thank the developers and the building owners who understand the benefits of this policy and are here to share their stories. And I'll end with a favorite quote from James Baldwin. Of course, he applied this to a different setting, but it applies here as well. He once said that not everything that is faced can be changed, but certainly only those things that are faced can be changed. And it's our opportunity as part of this generation to face up to the challenges of climate change and make sure that we address those challenges as best we can. If not, our options are going to be more limited and they're going to be much more unappealing as we go forward. The time to act is now. Thank you, and I'll pass it back over to Leah.